Hello and welcome to Delivering Better. This is a podcast about birth, motherhood and maternity care, the consequences that happen too often and the conversations that don't happen nearly often enough. Delivering Better started as a campaign calling for safe, evidence-based, compassionate maternity care for everyone in the UK. But it also comes from personal experience, from births that didn't go the way we were told they would, from the experiences of our friends and family, and from the aftermath of trying to make sense of a system that often tells women just to move on. In this podcast, we're going to talk honestly about what maternity care is really like, what's working, what's broken, and what it costs people when care isn't kind or safe. Some of these conversations might be uncomfortable, some might be funny, but we hope all of them are human. For our first episode, it's just the three of us who run the campaign, Jo, Sophie and Sarah. We're talking about who we are, what we experienced, and why we felt we had to do something. Whether you've just given birth, supported someone who has, work in maternity care, or are just asking questions, we're really glad you're here. This is Delivering Better. Hi everyone.
Hi.
That was
so good.
Thank you. I feel quite emotional.
That was lovely.
I feel like I'm going to cry already.
Good. Okay, well listen.
You've got a voice acting career ahead of you.
Thank you, Sophie. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to our first episode of Delivering Better. Hopefully that got you feeling inspired, maybe a bit emotional, maybe a bit hopeful. For those of you who aren't aware of our campaign, and this might be the first time you've ever seen us or you've heard about us, we thought we might introduce ourselves. So let me start. I'm Sarah Haynes. I'm one of the three co-founders of Delivering Better. Delivering Better is a campaign, as we mentioned, campaigning for evidence-based, safe, compassionate maternity care, and we'll talk a bit more about that in a second. I have a 1-year-old son. He's 4. I actually had, and we'll talk about this again a bit later, a relatively positive birth experience, but have always felt and observed that there is definitely more to do in this space. And the more I've dug into this, the more I found that. A bit about me that isn't about a campaign. I love shopping. I love spending time with my family and friends. And I love doing this crazy thing called High Rocks. So there you go. The girls told me to mention that. But that's a bit about me. Sophie, I'm going to come to you next.
So I'm Sophie Lucas. I am a creative campaign consultant. I work with nonprofits on making their campaigns less awful and developing strategy and coming up with creative concepts and things like that. I am a mum of 2. My oldest is 8. My youngest is 6. I have 2 boys, and my face tells you that I do because I constantly look tired. I came into Delivering Better at the same time as Sarah and saw Jo talking about something that I was like, oh, I want to do that. And as a campaigner, I previously worked for Pregnant and Screwed and thought maybe I could do that too. Not Pregnant and Screwed, but like create a campaign on something that really impacted women and mothers and parents. And so that's what I did. And that's where we are.
Thanks, Sophie. Jo, maybe you could also tell us a bit about why you started Delivering Better as well.
I am a mum of 1. I have Rafi, who is 4, and I am a management consultant. That's what I do for work. I work in change management and leadership development. So I get to work with people, which I love. But my background is actually in politics, which is relevant for a lot of why we're here. I started Delivering Better because it was a combination of things. I had Rafi in 2021, so tail end of COVID. I had a really awful experience when I had her, and I was just left with this really strong sense when I'd recovered. So when she was about 18 months old, I basically just couldn't stop thinking about what had happened to me. And I was left with this really strong sense that, you know, I'd been harmed and I knew other women were being harmed. And I also knew that it was avoidable. And I couldn't understand how, and I suppose this is partly with like my political hat on, how this wasn't a bigger issue politically when, you know, chances are if you chat to any group of, you know, people who are around 20, 30 and they've had a child, more of them than not will have had a bad experience. And I couldn't understand how it wasn't a bigger issue. And I'd love to say there was a strategy behind starting Delivering Better, but it wasn't that at all. It was really just a mum that was angry. And I think, you know, we talks about this a lot, like becoming a mother radicalized me. I've always been very political. But it was like I suddenly felt very protective, not just for myself and my child, but for other women.
Yeah.
And so I put up this post on Instagram. I came up with a name, Delivering Better.
Such a good name. It's such a good name.
We love a pun.
We love a
Delivering
pun.
better.
Yeah, we do love a pun. So I came up with a name and I went on to Canva, the old free version of Canva, whacked out a logo, which is still there at the moment, but I think we're probably going to do a little bit of a refresh, and just set up an Instagram account. And I basically sent a message to my mum and a few friends and said, like, please will you follow?
My mum and a few friends.
No, I did. And I said,
my mum.
No, I did. I messaged my mum and a
Number
few.
one Delivering Better fan.
Yeah, she
Oh my
is
God.
massive, big, the OG.
When she was in your kitchen, she kissed your head.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
she just kept coming over and kissing your
I
head.
know, when we were on a Zoom
Oh,
call.
it's so nice. You know, like when I think about the boys getting older and I'm like, at some point I'm going to have to stop, like,
I know.
just going, and then I'm like,
No,
apparently not.
when they're
I can
40, you
just
can
keep
still be kissing them on their head.
We're going to be mother of boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Formidable.
Yeah.
Stay away.
Yeah. Even when they get a bit smelly.
Yeah, bless her. I mean, I basically was just like, I'm launching this little thing and I want to just do something tiny to try and chip away at a part of this problem. And post this photograph of me having had Rafi and spoke a little bit about what had happened. And then things escalated. And now we're
Slid
here.
into your DMs.
Sarah and Soph messaged on Instagram. We didn't know each other. I always say, like, meeting both of you was like the greatest love story of my life. Always will be.
Oh, I was thinking about that this morning when I was getting ready for our first podcast recording. I was thinking about, wow, like, can you believe that we didn't know each other?
No.
I know.
Three complete
I
strangers
thought about
trusting
that when
each
we had
other.
dinner at your house the other night. I was like,
Yeah.
when we're sitting like,
Old ladies.
yeah, I was like, oh, it's really lovely, isn't it? That we get to do this together, because we could have all been horrible people.
And what we,
Yeah.
well,
We
it
could
might
have all,
not
like,
work.
we could have just not-
It could have just not worked. And I find it fascinating that it actually worked.
And here we are.
Yeah, and that we're so different.
Three
I love
completely
that we're
different
so
people.
different.
Yeah.
Like, we come from, like, if you were to set up an organisation, like intentionally set up an organisation,
Yep.
you'd need 3 people with our different skill sets.
Yeah.
You'd
Yeah.
need someone who comes in with like creative strategy campaigning. You'd need someone who comes in with that like political smarts and the advocacy side and thinking about engaging on the political side. And then you'd need someone who can just sort shit out and get us to do things and tell us to stop thinking about things and actually do them. And like you absolutely need that combination of people. And I find it fascinating that that's how, like, what's the cards fell? How the cards fell?
I'm not sure. I know what you're trying
I know
to
what
say.
you
but I
mean.
don't- it's not-
How it is.
It's not rolling off my tongue today, I'm afraid. But I know what you
that.
mean.
It's
It
not
was
how the cookie crumbles, it's something else. But whatever that phrase is, that's what it is.
serendipitous.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the nicer word for it. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Delivering Better, the podcast.
Yes.
Obviously, we touched at the beginning. We do want to talk about some hard things in this podcast. We want to talk about the consequences of when things happen to women during their pregnancy, childbirth, and beyond, and what that really means for us and for our lives. And I think maybe as we start this first episode, obviously you've touched a bit about your birth story, but maybe Sophie, could you share a little bit about sort of how you came to be here, other than just sliding into a DM, why it's important.
Well, my birth story isn't that exciting. Like, I had my oldest at home. I lived in Brighton at the time, so you know everyone
Was doing it.
Yeah, like I went to the first midwife appointment, and they were like, "What is it? At 8 weeks, you book an appointment?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were like, "What kind of birth would you like?" I was like, "Hospital, all the drugs, done." Like, we don't need to talk about this. Don't give me any of your weird hippie stuff. Like, we're done. And I was clearly very defensive, but I was very scared of birth. My best friend had a baby the year before, and I went to visit her in hospital, and I remember being like shit scared. I remember going into the hospital and being like, I do not want to hear someone in labour. Like, I do not want to hear a woman screaming. Like, I was so scared of birth. And so the solution to me was like, give me all the drugs and let's just get this done. Like, I want children, and this is just an inconvenience I've got to overcome. And then I went through this absolutely mad journey where I guess the feminist side of me, and to tote this phrase that I need to stop saying, but like it radicalized me, and it really did, because I think the more pregnant I became, not that you become more,
Yes, we know.
the more pregnant I became,
bigger you
that's
got.
a real thing. The further into my pregnancy I got, and the more my body changed, and the more I had to understand what was happening to me, like physiologically, whatever, the more I realised I knew absolutely nothing about what was happening to me. And like, I was a big old age when I had my oldest. Like, I was 35. I wasn't like a young person. I'd been thinking about having babies for a long time. I'd seen friends have babies. Actually, I was 10 when my mum got pregnant with my brother. So I'd witnessed that whole process. And I knew nothing. I knew nothing at all. And my body kept changing. And then the more I learned, the more I was like, maybe I am just going to have this birth that's like maybe I am going to have a home birth. And at 36 weeks, I decided to have a home birth. And it was like the cut-off point. I had to very quickly decide before I got to term. And I did. And I had him at home. And it was really hard. But it was fine. And everything went okay. I think afterwards I felt a little bit traumatized about the whole situation and what had happened, because birth can be incredibly stressful. But like, I didn't have any long-term injuries. And my second I had at home, and it was a dream birth, and not worth talking about. It was a wonderful birth. It was just before COVID, luckily. So I got to have him at home, and he flew out at the speed that he's continued in life, in like minutes. But I think for me, the whole experience of becoming a parent isn't the birth experience like it is for you that really stuck with me. I think it was my post-birth experience. Yeah. I think I still to this day find it very hard to think about me with Koopy, and think about him as a baby and how much I struggled in that process. And I spent a lot of time on my own. I spent a lot of time in my own head and on my own.
Yeah.
I was miles away from my family. I was miles away from my partner's family. I was in a new place. We'd not long moved to Brighton before he was born. And I just didn't really know anyone and didn't have anybody.
Yeah.
And then like when he was 5 days old, we tried to leave the house the first time. And this woman like attacked us in the street and was like screaming at us about, oh, you think you're really smart because you've had a baby. She was clearly very, very unwell. But I was already an anxious person. I'd already struggled this transition into motherhood. And then I went out and someone like attacked me in the street.
On day 5, goodness me.
On like day 5. And at the time I was like, you're 5 days in, chill out. Because you know, like everything feels so like long at that point.
Yeah.
And then on reflection, I was like, oh my God, like we had to lock ourselves in this cafe.
Oh, no.
And the owner like had to like deal with this woman outside. It was really insane. Anyway, and then I just didn't go out that much. I didn't really know anyone. So there was no one to really like drag me out either. And people can hate me for this. I hate baby groups. I think they're such a difficult place
they
for
can
mothers
be really
to go.
hard. Yeah.
Like it's such a weird situation. I also probably quite arrogantly thought I had so much going on in my life before I had a baby, and all anyone wanted to talk to me about was my baby.
I know.
And I hated that. And I've not got a good like face for hiding that. So I'd just be like, oh God, you're talking about my baby again. Which you're not going to make friends if you're like looking at people being like, oh God, here we go.
It's small talk, isn't it?
Yes, let's talk about boobs and sleep.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so I think when you put your post up, for me, it felt like, I'd been talking to friends about birth and motherhood for so long that I was like, this might be the chance for me to actually do something about some of this situation. So when I think about our work, I feel like a lot of mine is more around the postnatal side of thing and maternal mental health and like how we're actually taking care of parents, of mothers, of birthing people. Like how are we actually doing that as a society? And why don't we give a shit about mums? Why? I want this podcast to help us unpick why is it that we don't actually give a shit about mums? Because I find it absolutely mind-blowing that we don't, whether or not that's maternity care or everything that comes after that. We just don't care.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it is baffling, isn't it? How we've got here. Not us, as in how the state and society has got here. How we got into the podcast studio. No, how as a society we've got here. How, you know, to your point, women are just, disregarded is the wrong word. But you know, what mothers do and women do is so important.
It's just not valued.
Yeah,
it's not valued. We don't care. Like we really, really don't care.
I mean, we have conversations all the time with people now, like through this campaign, you know, and you hear these stories. Jo and I were talking about it on our way here, just how difficult it is for stories about maternity care and poor maternity care to be taken by editors in the press.
Yeah.
It's just too niche.
Yeah. I literally had a conversation.
It's too difficult. It's just not. It's not going to get readers.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually wrong, because it will get readers, because it will get mums reading it.
Yeah.
And we're not going to get too political today, but politicians should care about what we as mums.
I think we are.
I think we are.
Okay, all right, we're going ready today.
We are.
I think the thing which is always
should care about
bonkers is like everybody that is born in this country, by and large, will be involved with the maternity services.
Yes.
And yet it is treated politically as this niche aspect of women's health, when it is literally the way you bring people into the world is through those services.
Yeah.
It is the shop front of the NHS.
Yes.
It is also, I'm getting on my high horse now, I can feel it, but it is also, for many women, their first major interaction with the NHS.
Yeah.
And we are failing women and birthing people every single day. And the thing that I find so terrifying is that there is still no real deep appreciation in the kind of corridors of power about how bad things are and about how serious the consequences of that are.
I think that's the thing, that when I was thinking about like what we talk about, I was really conscious about us going into this sort of bucket of like, let's talk about the experience of birth, let's talk about the experience of maternity care. And I think we do ourselves an injustice, because I actually think that's a journey we've been on in the past 18 months, is like, it's not about birth. It is about birth. Obviously, it's about birth. But it's about the fact that we're missing a trick. Every negative birth has a ripple effect that carries on for decades and
for the
decades.
rest of your life.
Yeah.
And it carries on through the lives of the children. It carries on
100%.
through our... I mean, I've got no data to prove this right now, but like it carries on through our education system. It carries on through our healthcare system. It dictates in many ways how mothers engage with the state, engage with healthcare, see themselves as a mother. Like even having a negative birth experience and then how you perceive yourself, the amount of mothers that I talk to that talk about how they failed in those moments. And like, what does that do for your self-esteem as a mother? Because you already have a crisis when you're a mum, that you're like, I spend quite a lot of time thinking I'm a shit mum. Like, and I think most mums that I know spend quite a lot of time very focused on their failures as a mother.
Yeah.
And I moderate The Village, which is like a gorgeous parenting community on Facebook. I wish we didn't have to run it on Facebook because, but we run on Facebook. It's got like 4,000 parents on there. I run it with, well, I don't run it actually. I moderate it, but I moderate it alongside Emma Svanberg, who is a post and perinatal, what's she?
Psychologist,
therapist, something like that. She does an amazing job anyway, works with lots and lots of mothers. And I remember when I was really anxious and I was trying to work out, I had really bad health anxiety and I was trying to work out why, and she was helping me access some therapy for that. And she asked me about my birth experience, and it was the first time anyone had been like, what happened with your birth experience? And I was almost like,
why are you asking me that?
Like, why is that relevant? And she was like, it's always relevant.
Yeah.
And it was incredible, someone actually saying to me, it's always, of course it's relevant. It's like the most seismic event in your life.
100%. Yeah.
Of course it's relevant to how you're feeling right now. And I said to her, I've got this terrible health anxiety around the boys. Like, I really worry when they get sick. I don't think we talk about it a lot. And Anna Mather had talked about it a lot. And it was like someone who made me go, well, maybe I need to work this out. And it had got really bad. And I said, the moment Cooper was born, I'd been pushing for like 4 hours. I'd been in labour for 18 hours. And they asked me to hold him. And they were like, he's out, yay, like hold your baby, it's a boy. And I was like, no, like stop making, are you insane? Like, can you imagine someone like running a marathon and you're running up to the end and being like,
them a newborn.
Being like, can you hold this newborn baby who's still attached? They'd be like, absolutely. Like, imagine you doing high rocks and then at the end of high rocks, someone coming up to you and being like, here's a brand new newborn
Final
baby.
stage,
completely
we're gonna
naked,
throw you a baby.
Hard floor below, don't drop it. Like, of course you're not going to do that. And it really, I realised, even though my birth overall was fine, that was actually an incredibly traumatising moment because it was my first moment as a mother.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it. I couldn't show up.
Yeah.
I couldn't show up. I couldn't hold him. And obviously after that I held him and it was fine. But when I said that to her, and then you think about your own health anxiety, you're like, shit, I'm worried I can't show up when he needs me. I'm worried I'm gonna miss something. I'm worried, and it's all tied together. But we don't connect the dots. We don't want to connect the dots. We don't want to treat it like the moment or the event that it is.
Because if we did, then we would have to fund it properly.
Yeah, we'd have to give it the attention
we would have to
it
resource
deserves.
it properly. And we would have to see it as a priority. And so it is helpful politically for it to continue to be seen as a niche part of women's health, because then it can be treated as such.
Yeah.
You know, and I think about this all the time. I mean, the way that I mother Rafi is so informed by the birth that I had with her, because I have met women since we started Delivering Better who had not dissimilar experiences to mine and whose babies did not survive.
Yeah.
And the thing that I grapple with psychologically most is that I feel like I did fail her, because I feel like I didn't do enough to protect her. And that might sound like a strange thing to say, but that's how this sits in my head, is the guilt and the shame of that. And I will carry that with me for the rest of my life. And that has, of course, informed how I mother her.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the other things I always try and say to people about birth is that it is so seismic. Small things have disproportionate impact. You know, an experience, an interaction.
100%.
Yeah, one intervention.
One intervention, one comment can send you on one track or the other.
I was talking about this the other day because I think I'm quite mad because I'm obsessed with my kids being warm.
Oh, yeah.
I'm obsessed with my kids being warm. Like, my oldest had a school trip this week and, like, my partner got him dressed and I was like, oh no, he needs thermals. Get him undressed immediately. Like, put cords on him. They're too thin a trouser. Like, and he's like 8. Like, and he literally like strips off layers because he's like, what is wrong with you? But when he was less than 24 hours old, I'd had all this advice from NCT about him not getting too warm. And do you remember that little chart that they give you?
Yeah.
And like 21 degrees, they're like, strip them off. So this poor little bugger, this poor sweet boy, like fresh to the world, in a drafty hoe flat by the open fireplace in our bedrooms. It's like this cold winter breeze coming down.
It does whistle around them, right?
In a vest with a wee blanket on him, or like with one of his little sleep suits.
Yeah.
He had a vest on, I think, and his sleep suit, arms off because it was warm.
Yeah, that's what the picture shows.
Yeah, that's what the picture shows. Yeah.
It was absolutely Baltic. I was like, why is this baby crying? It's like, because he's been
freezing.
in a womb. Last night he was in a womb and now he's in a cold, drafty room being like, can someone give me a cuddle? And I just like put him in the next to me. And I think, like, now I laugh about it, but I realised that tiny little moment has rippled into 8 years of my parenting.
Yeah.
Because that tiny little moment where I realised, like, oh shit, he's cold.
Yeah.
Like, I realised he was cold. Like, obviously, like, then immediately put him on me and wrapped him up and then never, ever let him be cold for the rest of his life. was like, I was clearly a bit traumatised by that because it was a moment where I failed as a mother within the first 24 hours. It was apparently the second moment. We're only half an hour in.
It's funny, isn't it? And I think, lots of us will have done NCT, bump and baby, insert your antenatal class name here. And listen, for me, I found lots of positive things about my antenatal class.
Right.
Number one, my amazing group of friends. So shout out to those mums who have like held me since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really lucky.
Yeah.
And I know that other people also have that. And I talked to my aunt. And she's like, oh, I'm seeing that. I'm seeing my antenatal friends. Like, she's in her 60s. They still meet up. Yes, they do.
Oh, I love that.
It's so nice. We'll be doing that in our 60s, I hope.
Yeah.
So there were lots of things I found very useful. But there were lots of things that you just don't get told.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So either it's information like, it's not fear-mongering. Of course it's not. But it's like the little chart. Don't let them get too hot. Or don't do this, don't do that. I mean, there's a whole thing around breastfeeding or not breastfeeding, pain relief or no pain relief. But there's also just so many, we don't honestly speak to each other before we give birth about what might happen and what might go wrong. And then one of the things we spoke about a lot when we launched Delivering Better is as mums, as friends, as women, we also censor ourselves because we don't want to scare our friend.
It's a fine line,
we don't want to scare our
line.
friend who's about to give birth in 3 months.
Yeah.
So we're not doing ourselves a service at all because we're not talking about what can happen. And we go into these experiences.
Yeah.
And to your point where you've got, left or right, one decision, one step here, one step here.
Yeah.
And I think of all the stories of friends and, as I said, my birth experience was wholly positive, but it was very controlled in a way that I would control my life. And I researched all the data and I made the decision.
We love you.
That's why we love her.
I had a planned cesarean under general because I have a health condition that means I couldn't have an epidural or a spinal. And it really worked for me. I mean, I'm sure we can talk a lot about what that then meant in terms of how I struggled as a mum, like having to give up control. I remember saying to Alex, my partner, to him, listen, parenting is all about like giving up control. We're not going to be able to control anything. And he was like, okay.
Yeah, okay. We'll see how this plays out.
All right to yourself, Sarah.
I was like, you're going to have to be prepared. And he's like, all right.
Yeah.
So yes, I did struggle with that. But I think going back to my point, there are all of my friends and all the women I've spoken to, you just hear of these moments in a birth story or an experience where it just could have gone either way. And that can lead to trauma at varying levels. A lot around Delivering Better is we want to talk about all of the experiences. And of course, there are really, really awful, the most traumatic experiences at one end of the spectrum. But there are also experiences on the other end of the spectrum that are traumatic to all of us because it happened to us.
Yeah.
That in itself is traumatic, right?
Yeah.
And I think that lack of education, that lack of awareness hasn't helped mothers.
It really hasn't.
It's huge, yeah.
I went and talked to an NCT. Have I told you about this?
I don't know.
It doesn't matter, does it?
You're doing it now?
Settle in, girl.
I went, because I was a home birth, they love to then get you back to talk about home birth.
Oh, nice.
And I did. Gareth and I went back and met like this next round. Oh, God. Met this like next round of NCT parents. And they separated out into, it was very hetero, father's group and the mum's group. And I sat with the mum's group. And I was a bit nervous, and I think I was probably a bit sleep deprived, and Cooper was quite little and he was crying quite a lot. I remember that the NCT woman took him off me for a bit while I was talking, and I told them all to look at their vulvas.
That is so on brand.
I told them all to look at their vulvas because I was like, look at your vulva, like get a mirror now and look at your vulva, because I honestly think like so many women experience tears, whether or not it's like second or more severe third, fourth degree tears. But they've never looked at their vulva. They don't actually know what it looks like pre-birth or what it should look like. And then post-birth, they're going to look at it and it's frankly a horror show.
Yeah.
And like you can't decipher what's normal and what's not. And when you start healing, obviously your vulva looks very, very different. But there's different and then there's like,
wrong.
That looks like something's not quite right.
Yeah.
And
but
so,
how do you know?
And I just remember the NCT woman being like, like that wasn't really what we brought you in for. We wanted you to talk about like your home birth experience and like, and I was like, I do think you should get a mirror and look at your vulvas. And to be fair, all the mums in the circle were like, why is she telling us?
But it's essential. Like I remember reading something. So I had PTSD after I had Rafi, which is actually a conversation at some point I'd be keen to get into because it actually, I didn't realise I had it. It was a clinician, a therapist that I was seeing who said, I think...
Can I ask, because I don't think I've ever asked you this question, and don't answer it now if you don't want to.
Yeah.
How did that manifest? Like, how did that show itself?
So a couple of things. So one was recurrent flashbacks. So every day I was having multiple instances a day of remembering lying in a bed in hospital in that position that you're in just before, you deliver it, in that like textbook position of lying on your back. Yeah. And I remember the room being full of people and just screaming for help. I was screaming for help and no one was really doing anything.
That just kept coming.
I can just remember like begging for help, begging for pain relief, begging just begging for help. Like,
Why
and
were they keeping you on your back, by the way?
well, I mean, that's a whole other
Because
conversation.
you weren't being monitored, were you?
No,
So there was no actual reason for you to have been lying on your back.
no, there was no reason at all.
I think anyone who makes someone lie down in birth should be forced to try and have a poo lying in bed.
To be honest,
Like, give it a go.
We did say it might be funny.
Give it a go. See how you get on, because you can't, can you? No one's ever. Gonna
it was
try
just
and do
the
that.
whole. It was. I think it was such a perfect storm of things, but it was that image is just burned into my mind, and it was this sense of just complete helplessness in a situation where you trust that you will be safe and taken care of.
Yeah.
But so one of the things was flashbacks, recurrent flashbacks every day of this image. The second was a complete inability to engage with anything that could be a reminder for me of birth. So if something came on the TV, if like Casualty came on, or there was a news story about a hospital, I couldn't deal with it. And those are pretty characteristic things. And then also an extremely high kind of baseline level of anxiety.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been anxious, and I took an antidepressant while I was pregnant, and of it, like, and continued there afterwards, which I think in some ways may have saved my life, because I was very unwell mentally after I had her.
And you feel like that was keeping it.
And I think that may well have kept
Bearable.
Yeah.
Not that it was bearable.
Yeah, exactly. But I was having some therapy, and the therapist said, and I just mentioned casually that I was having these flashbacks, and she said, have you ever been evaluated for PTSD? But the reason I mention it is because my understanding is one of the things that can exacerbate PTSD is it's not just the trauma of the experience itself, but it is the gap between how you expect that situation to play out and what the reality is.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that, we speak so often about that pre-birth education piece is because you do women such a profound disservice if they're not only having bad experiences, but they're kind of being told implicitly that they're going to have good ones.
Yeah.
It's the perfect storm with those two.
Yeah.
The other thing it made me think about, as you were talking, Sarah, is I remember when the birth trauma inquiry hearings were being held, and hearing a really experienced clinician say, we don't talk to women about tears because we don't want to scare them. Mm. I cannot tell you how many times I have thought of that and wanted to run through the streets with it on like a placard saying, do you have any idea the damage that is done to women if they are not given the information they need to adequately prepare? Like, what a deeply patronizing
It's so patriarchal.
and deeply patriarchal way of addressing that particular problem. And I think the final thing, just because I think this is important, I am very, very mindful that I and we come at this issue from very particular perspectives.
Yeah, we do.
I think all the time about the fact that I'm a white middle-class English-speaking woman. I had a terrible experience, but statistically, if I wasn't, that experience would have been untold times worse.
Yeah.
And I think that is also very important to stare in the face, and it's something we will stare in the face in terms of the conversations we have throughout the course of the podcast.
Yeah. Agreed.
Can you imagine someone going for surgery and being like, we would tell you about what could happen with the general anaesthetic, but we don't want to scare you. So you actually have to sign consent forms for that, don't you?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a thing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely wild.
It is completely bonkers.
Wild.
So one of the things we've spoken about, as obviously a lot of this podcast, there will be difficult conversations, and we will talk about things that are quite hard.
Yeah.
And we've already started that today. But motherhood particularly is something that is hard and beautiful things can coexist together, or hard and positive things can exist together. And so one of the things we've agreed that we'd like to do at the end of every episode is our segment called The Beauty Spot. And in that, we want to talk to each other and talk to our future guests about where those things have sort of coexisted. And in those moments of hard, where have we been able to see really wonderful, positive things?
Yeah.
That's right, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
what we were hoping to
right.
achieve.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first?
I've actually got something that comes to
on
mind.
then.
But can I maybe have more than one thing?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
There's no rules.
No, okay, right. So
I would say it's your name on the door, but it's not. It's delivering better. But it's,
I think one of the things that, and so we run, like for the campaign, we run obviously workshops with student midwives, which is like one of the loveliest parts of the campaign. And we do that because we take examples of lived experience, whether that's mine or other people's, and we go and talk to student midwives about lessons that can be learned. But it's also a chance for us to remain really connected with the people who are actually delivering the service on the front line. And that was one of the kind of founding principles of Delivering Better, is that often mothers and midwives are played off against each other. Yeah. And that's such an unhelpful narrative, because by and large, we're all failed by the same system, albeit in different ways. And part of the reason why I wanted Delivering Better to be a really broad church was because, yes, I had an experience of very poor care, but within that, there were some experiences of amazing care. And there are two people who really stand out for me. One was a kind of specialist mental health midwife, who I won't name, but I had met with her before I had Rafi. Because I'd had a history of anxiety and depression, I was at a higher risk. And so I was on like a care pathway and met with her. And unfortunately, when it actually came to my birth, none of the notes were read. So no one actually took any notice of the things that I planned with her, but that's to one side.
That's for another day.
That's for another day. But what did happen was I was in hospital for 5 nights, and the morning after the first night, I was in a terrible state, and she walked onto the ward, and she just happened to be on shift that day. And she found me in a bed in a really bad way. And it's going to make me cry.
You're going to do this a lot.
We just say
I can't. I am such a crier.
I just realised we said we needed to bring tissues, and we didn't.
Okay, right. Well, okay. I'm going to try
some in my bag, but I think
I think I'll be fine. Whatever.
I'll be like Angie from EastEnders.
I can't. I cry all the time.
She used to just have loads of mascara down her face every time she did like a dramatic crying scene in the Queen Vic. It was like 90s or something. Don't worry about it.
Okay, so basically, she came onto the ward and she found me, and she basically came over and just said, like, what has happened? And she did the most human thing, which is she actually realised what I needed. She hugged me. She just sat on the bed and she held me like a child, as my own child was in the little incubator or whatever, not incubator, but little plastic box next to me. And she held me and she held me and she held me, and she just said, I am so sorry.
Oh, Jo. I'm sorry too.
I'm going to take my massive glasses off.
Yeah, you are.
So I think it was firstly just this very human interaction. And I think so often, I mean, it's why we campaign for compassionate care. And the truth is, for midwives to be able to deliver compassionate care, they have got to be enough midwives. We cannot expect midwives to deliver the kind of care that women and birthing people deserve if there are just not enough of them. Yeah. But it was that she was able to be that person. But my God, did that woman then jump into action? Oh. She was like Sarah Haynes. Honestly, Sarah Haynes level efficiency. She was not having it. She was like, right, this is what needs to happen. And she did a whole bunch of really small things. Again, as we say, the small things really matter at a time like that. She said, has someone given you a laxative? And I said, no, because they'd said I'd had a 2nd degree. There was confusion over what degree tear I had.
I mean, that in itself, there was confusion over what degree tear I had.
Yeah, which is like actually a whole separate conversation. But because they'd said I'd had a 2nd degree tear, you go on like a different care pathway. And as I understand it, you're not given a laxative. I was like, so, which is like mind blowing to me, just from a dignity
perspective. 2nd degree? I don't know. Are we sure about that?
I don't know. But that's kind of what I was told. Like, you don't need
everyone's given... Like, maybe not. Or maybe not given one, but if you need one, is he constipated or not? Don't hold it back.
Well, don't hold it back, literally and figuratively. Yeah, quite. So she like instantly was like, right, what tiny things can I do to give you back a little bit of your dignity? Make this a little bit easier. Right, let's sort that out. So she did that, and she then managed to get us moved into a private room so that I could kind of start to recover, whatever. She was amazing. So that's the first thing. And I've been back to see her a couple of times and I talk about her often, and she's incredible. The second woman was a maternity support worker who are also critical parts of the maternity infrastructure who just don't get enough recognition. And she was also a breastfeeding consultant. And I remember she came in just her whole manner was so beautiful. She had 4 kids of her own, and she was like, let's get you, we had a bit of a chat, and I said I wanted to try and breastfeed, and I can't remember why she suggested this, but she said, oh, how about we get you hooked up to like one of the
pumps,
big old, I mean, it's like it's like massive, those big hospital ones.
Hospitals, aren't they?
She
big
like
industrial
wheeled
ones.
this thing. I mean, it was enormous, and she whacked these things on my like for me, ginormous boobs, and she came back like half an hour later, and she was like, "Oh my God, look at you," and all I had produced was not any milk. It was just like mist in the bottles. She made me feel like I was a dairy cow. And I was like, yeah, all right, these puppies, we're going to be fine. And she, look at you. You don't have to do anything. You've got this. I mean, there I was just with my little bottles of mist. But what she did was she made me believe I could do it.
Yeah.
And I was so barren from like, I was just so destroyed by the experience that to have someone be like, oh yeah, you can do this. You're all right. You can do this.
Yeah.
And I then went on to breastfeed. I would never have breastfed if she hadn't said, oh, you've got this. So my very long story is that one of the big lessons for me about this is it is very rare that you will meet someone who's had a bad experience for whom it was all just every person in it, I really want
there are always shining lights,
they're always
nuggets,
who are doing their best in very difficult circumstances.
I actually think, and I know we've talked about this before, when I think about why I wanted to be part of Delivering Better, I think my birth experience, and I don't think I'm a home birth advocate. Avocado.
Yeah, you had it right the first time.
Advocate.
Moving on to eggnog. I don't think I am, someone who tells people they should have home births, because I think people should do what they want to do as long as it's safe. But I think there's a very interesting thing when you have a home birth, that if you've only had home births like me, the idea that you don't have a midwife supporting you during labour, or that you're left on your own for really long periods of time is wild, because when you have a home birth, for people who don't know, like by the time you're 4 centimetres dilated, they will send out midwife 1, and that midwife comes out to you, and that midwife is for you. And there's something very important in that, the psychology of that midwife is for you. That is for the birthing person to have full attention of someone who is watching them go through birth, keeping an eye on everything, making sure they're okay, never missing a trick. And I had, weirdly, for both my births, a midwife called Becky. 2 very different Beckys in 2 very different places of the country. For some reason, they're both the lead midwives were called Becky. And when Becky arrived at my first birth, I'd been in the bath humming 3 Blind Mice for like 4 hours at that point, and was clearly really mad and surrounded by floating bits of poo. It was all very, very gross. But that's the reality of birth. Let's not shy away from it.
No, let's not shy away.
And she just like ran in, Gareth said, with like a really dry piece of toast, and like straight up the stairs, sat on the loo in the bathroom, and just watch me carry on, and watch me, and very gently, carefully, every now and then she'd say, I'm just going to have a little listen.
Yeah.
Just going to check you. Is that okay? And she was so respectful, and she wasn't rushed.
Yeah.
She wasn't rushing off to someone else.
Yeah.
It was my moment. It was my time to shine. Barbara Streisand. It was my moment, and she looked at me. But she gave me all the attention I needed. And then when I reached a certain point, my labour started to slow down, and she recognised it because she was there, because she was watching me, because she knew how long I'd been in the bath.
So important.
And she said, Sophie, you slowed down. You need to sort of get on your knenes a bit.
Have a bit of a move.
Because I was on my side humming 3 Blind Mice. And so weird. And everyone was like, you're going to moo like a cow. Am I? Or am I going to sing a nursery rhyme that I've never sung before? And she got me up on my knees. And then she was like, this isn't progressing. But it was just it might not have been, but it felt like that was just a few minutes before she was like, decision.
Yeah.
She was on it. And then she moved me into the bedroom, and Gareth had made like a nest on the floor, and that's where I stayed pushing for like a decade until
10 years
until he finally arrived. Yeah. Like that Titanic meme. I'm 84 years old. That's how I felt at the end of the final stage of labour. And I think about that a lot, because obviously during that period of time, she then called for the second midwife and said she's progressing. And that second midwife is your baby's midwife.
Yeah.
It's not yours.
Oh, wow. I didn't
and that
realise
second midwife is there for when your baby comes out, to take care of your baby, to look at your baby, whilst the first midwife is still looking at you.
Wow.
Still checking on you, still making sure you're okay. So like I had a tear. So that first midwife is giving me stitches. I didn't have any gas and air for my first labour, and I don't know why. In hindsight, I think my mum had been sick on gas and air.
Yeah.
So I was like,
A bit scared.
what if I was really scared of being sick, and then that like ruining my vibe.
Yeah, fair enough.
It does kill the vibe.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have it. And then they gave it me to do my stitches, and I was like lying. It was such a mad scene. I was lying on our bed at the end, like across the end of our bed with my legs up, getting stitches. And my mum and dad turned up halfway through my labour. That's a whole different story. Insane. My dad needed the toilet, and Gareth sent him to the public toilets around the corner because I was in the bathroom. Anyway, that's all mad. We'll talk about that another time. But my mum was on the bed, like having cuddles with like her firstborn grandchild, and Gareth was on the bed next to her, like where your pillows would be, and I was lying like along the end of the bed having stitches.
It's like
with
a
this
Christmas
gas and
card
air.
moment.
Insane, like something out of Nativity. But I was singing Barry White because I'd got like
Sophie Lucas, you have
I'd
a
had this gas
repertoire.
and air, and it made my voice go even deeper than it already is. So I kept singing Barry White. Anyway, that was a mad memory. But my point is, I've gone off track. I'm sorry, everyone. My point is that care and attention was completely focused on me and my baby in that moment. It wasn't focused on anyone else. And that required two midwives.
Yeah.
That required two midwives. There are two people in that situation. There is one being born, and there is one doing the borning.
Yep.
And it needed two midwives.
Yeah.
And every time I think about that, and I think about the challenges we hear about, and think about the work we do with Delivering Better, I think that's the reason I wanted to do it, because I knew what that looked like. I knew what good care looked like.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're making a political choice. Governments make a choice decade after decade.
Big time.
To not fund that.
Totally.
If you don't fund that, things get missed.
Yeah.
Things happen.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great place to stop.
Yeah.
I think, ladies.
I didn't do my beauty spot.
Well, that's okay. We can
But it
save
doesn't
it.
matter.
But we can save it for next time.
Yeah,
because
I need to
we've
think
got
about what it
we've
is.
got a series. I think this is a great first episode. Well done, us.
Yay, well
and
done.
thank you,
Only
everyone.
cried once.
Thank you,
We did
everyone
it.
who's stuck with us. We would love to hear from you.
Yes.
You know where to find us.
Yes, at Delivering
on our
Better on
socials,
Instagram.
At Delivering Better. We will be back for more with some amazing guests.
Yes.
Who are going to take this conversation to the next level.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yay! Thanks, Ray. Well done.
Yay!